What's going on, everybody? I'm Jerry, and today we have my Week 12 takeaways, where I'm going to go through all 16 games of this great Thanksgiving weekend that we had. So I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you gave plenty of thanks. And let me not waste your time. Let's get right into it. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Starting off, we had Packers-Lions. This was a good game for Jordan Love. 270-ish passing yards, 3 touchdowns. Jared Goff, multiple fumbles, pretty much the reason they lost the game. I put in there the pass rush. Pass rush was not getting there for Detroit. Aiden Hutchinson's a great football player, but he can't do it all himself. They really need somebody opposite of him to step it up. And I put there, too, the defense is kind of going downhill just because these past few weeks, their defense has actually been part of the reason that they've had to be close in the game or, in this case, lost the game. The Packers still need to work on their run game, though. It's really just Aaron Jones being out is definitely not helping, but A.J. Dillon is not cutting it. He really needs his sidekick or his Batman, and he just be Robin in Aaron Jones. And the defense for the Packers, in this case, kept them in the game, especially forcing those fumbles on Jared Goff. That was a big part of the game, and a part of it is just Goff's control with the ball. We also had some interesting missed extra points. That's why the funny score, the Lions and the Packers both missed an extra point. The Lions, they made a comeback, it just wasn't enough. Packers end up taking it 29-22. Next we have a blowout, massive blowout here. Cowboys went up pretty early, and the Commanders never really had a chance. I keep talking about how Howell reminds me of a young Matt Stafford and how he has that kind of gunslinger mentality, and he can throw a good ball, but he's also going to throw some turnovers. But he's constantly throwing for the most yards. Unfortunately, it's not leading to touchdowns like he would like and leading to more turnovers. But he's up there next to Stroud and some of the top guys as far as yards go. So he's kind of doing like a early young Matt Stafford, maybe more comparables Jameis Winston. But the Cowboys just kind of took over, dominated this whole game. DaRon Bland makes history with the 5th pick 6 this year, breaking the record in one season. I also threw in there, is this Dak's best year? Because he is playing lights out. Now, I feel like you have to mention, and this is why I put overrated, is the Cowboys, all the teams that they've beat in these blowout wins have all not been good teams. They haven't I don't believe they've beat a team with a winning record yet. So we have to keep that in mind. I saw that graphic, I think, a week or two ago, so that could have changed by now. But all of their big blowout wins, and the reason their point differential is so high is because of these lower tier teams that they're beating. So you have to keep that in mind moving forward into the playoffs, and why I struggle to put them high up in my power rankings if you watch those videos. But yeah, Cowboys didn't really need to do much because the Commanders did not look good in this game. 49ers Seahawks. Put the 49ers are back. There was great pressure from the defense all game long. Chase Young has made a large impact, kind of similar to a way that Sweat has, where Montez Sweat in this past game did get a sack and a half, and has got his first sack last week, but it's not resulting in a lot of sacks. It's more just him creating pressure. He's still towards the top of the league in pressures, and I think the 49ers defense has got to be up there too, especially in these last few weeks, because when you have to worry about Eric Armstead, Nick Bosa, and Chase Young, and then Fred Warner, Dre Greenlaw can all come in too on a blitz. Like, there's too many people to worry about on that defense. Causes a lot of problems. And then CMC goes off again. What's new? It just seems to do it every week. Seahawks didn't have an answer. Seahawks altogether are falling apart, although I just put Geno was falling apart under pressure. The pressure really got to him. Wasn't able to do what he was doing last year and even early on this season. You forget this, the Seahawks beat teams like the Lions. So just got to fix that. The run game, too, is horrible. Obviously, Kenneth Walker being out doesn't help. But DJ Dallas got a majority of the touches. Zach Charbonnet is dealing with something. So need to work on that run game. Game starts in the run game and in the trenches. And when your offensive line isn't able to hold back the 49ers defense and your running game isn't good, it makes it a difficult situation for the quarterback. But yeah, the Seahawks really had one big good play. Seahawks defense, rather, and it was just a pick six. They got the pick six on Purdy. Jordan Brooks got it, so there was that. But 49ers really dominated this whole game. Next we have Dolphins-Jets. Another dominate blowout win. There's not much to talk about. Tua did throw 2 picks, one being returned for 6. Little positive there for the Jets defense, but not for the offense. To quickly go through this game is the Dolphins offense, they were just able to run all over the Jets defense, and they went up early. Tyreek and Waddle went over 100 yards, and then Tim Boyle just got sacked a bunch on defense. Clearly not cutting it at the quarterback position. I almost think they look better with Zach Wilson, but he's probably still on the bench just to make a point. Regardless of the situation, it's a blowout win. There's not much to say. Steelers-Bengals. Najee Harris has a very strong game. It seems like him and Jaylen Warren are kind of going back and forth on who's having the better game. Pat Freiermuth has a career day with 9 receptions for 120 yards. Huge day for him. And then I put the defense just plays good enough because with Jake Browning in and them not running the ball at all, and when they did run the ball, the Bengals, it wasn't very successful. So you have to factor that in too. But the defense really didn't play lights out like they would, and worse than expected to me against a quarterback like Jake Browning. But they need to run the ball more. So Joe Mixon only got 8 carries. Granted, it was for 16 yards, so they weren't having success when doing it. But setting up the run game, as we just talked about with Geno Smith, is so important when you're trying to help a young quarterback. Is getting a solid run game going and getting some short passes, getting some chemistry, and building confidence in that quarterback is so important. And I think if they would have done that, the defense actually did play pretty good. I mentioned DJ Turner is a guy because he had back-to-back plays where he had a huge pass breakup on Deontay Johnson in the end zone that was going to be a touchdown if he didn't hit the ball out. And then the next play, I don't remember who forced a fumble, but DJ Turner hops right on it and returns it for a little bit on a fumble. So couple nice plays out of DJ Turner. Like to see that. I put Browning's no more than a backup because it's only a couple games that we've seen, but it just doesn't seem like there's really going to be much of a future. He's not really doing anything crazy good, and he's not in a good situation either with Joe Burrow clearly being the quarterback. But it seems like he could be an okay backup. I think Jake Browning is a guy where if you're playing like the Steelers have been a good team this year, despite getting outgained in every game except this one, and still having a 7-4 record. I think Jake Browning could definitely win you games. Like if you're playing a more subpar team, he's going to be a decent backup, but definitely can't be a starting quarterback in my mind after seeing what he's been doing. Jaguars-Texans, my prediction, if you watch my picks videos, which you should, nobody really watched it because nobody watches YouTube on Thanksgiving, but I predicted 27-24 Jaguars beating the Texans, which is almost spot on. I got the spread right. It was just 3 points off either way. So love that I can do that. There's actually a couple other games where I nailed at least one specific score perfectly. So punt fest early on for the Jaguars-Texans. Not really a whole lot going on. There was a bomb early on, too, to Stroud to Tank Dell that gets called back because of an illegal shift, which is a huge, honestly, kind of a huge pivotal play because I think Texans could have gotten an early lead and maybe would have been better in this game. But Travis Etienne on the Jaguars also needs to be doing better. He was averaging like 2 yards a carry. He got a lot of touches, and the Texans defense had his number. So Travis Etienne went on a nice stretch of like 4 or 5 games where very efficient, huge key part of the offense, and it seems to be fading away. So they're going to have to figure that out. Calvin Ridley, Christian Kirk, and Zay Jones is a great combination too. So you got to get them the ball too when you got all those playmakers. But Stroud kept him in the game. I put he does it again because he really did get him into the position where he could tie it and potentially win it. Drives down the field. Unfortunately, it was just field goal range. It wasn't a touchdown to win it. And it was just barely out of field goal range, unfortunately, because the kicker ends up knocking the ball off the crossbar to lose. And that's why I put game of inches, 6 more inches, and the ball would have went through. Texans would have tied, probably going to overtime. And it's a completely different story. So a lot of penalties, though, too, that hurt the Texans in pivotal moments. We just talked about the bomb to Tank Dell where the illegal shift brings it back. So Texans kind of hurt themselves here. Stroud still has a great game, just not enough to beat the Jaguars. Moving on to the next one, we had Buccaneers Colts. This is another one where I predicted the Buccaneers. If you watch Pick's video, I predicted they would score 20 points, and they did. I did predict it was going to be 21-20 with the Colts winning because I thought the Colts were going to win. I thought the Buccaneers were going to keep it close, and I thought they had a chance to win. Definitely a winnable game for them. But Baker Mayfield went down early. Kyle Trask comes in, does not look good. They start having to go to Rashad Whitemore, who has an efficient day on the ground where usually he's more efficient out of the backfield. So good day for him there. And then Baker came back and ends up turning the ball over and made it pretty difficult. And then the defense struggled to stop the run. Vita Vea being out is a huge problem for the Buccaneers, and he just plugs holes as the large man that he is in the interior defensive line. So Jonathan Taylor and Zach Moss went off to have great days. Minshew just kind of did enough. I feel like he's kind of a system quarterback, or he's kind of a, get the ball to the playmakers. He's not going to be like your Josh Allen, run down the field and make these massive plays. Although a few weeks ago he did make some plays with his legs, but he's not like this superstar, crazy good quarterback where kind of like, I think you could probably plug him in the 49ers. Like, I think he could probably do what Brock Purdy does, because Minshew is pretty accurate and pretty good decision making. So I feel like if he had the O-line of, the 49ers and the receivers and all the weapons, I feel like, he could do that. I don't think he gets enough credit because of how he's kind of bounced around and been on mediocre teams. But the turnovers saved the game. Baker had a fumble that really lost the game towards the end there. And then he had the interception earlier on too. So Colts take down the Buccaneers 27-20. This one surprised me. I really thought the Saints were going to have a nice bounce back game here after having some struggling weeks, and they just continue to struggle. Barely beating the Bears, and then ever since that point, they've just kind of struggled. Carr was really hot early. He was slinging it. He had a beautiful bomb to Olave, amazing catch by Olave. He threw it up to Taysom Hill early on. Taysom Hill got a Moss, and it was great. But then throws the pick six to Jesse Bates, and that they lost all momentum after that. Got to get touchdowns too. If you kick 5 field goals and you kick 6 and make 5 of them, you can't really expect to win the game unless you're the Chicago Bears, I guess, because all the Falcons had to do was score 16 points because the Saints couldn't find the end zone. So that's very simple. Bend but don't break by the Falcons goes hand in hand with the need to score touchdowns. They just didn't let them in the end zone, and that was all they needed to do. So props to them for that. Then we've got dominant run game. I think this is the first time ever, at least that I've seen, where 3 different, probably like back in the 40s and 50s and earlier when running the ball was more prominent, you'd see it. But there was 3 different running backs that all had 8 carries and averaged like 5.5 yards per carry or more, which was very impressive. I think it was 8 for Algier, or 8 for Patterson, 10 for Algier, and 14 for Bijan, and they all were just very efficient. Ended up with 200 yards rushing in the game. So Saints really just couldn't stop it, and the Falcons took advantage of that. So great game for the Falcons there. I put it's not sustainable though, because they still don't know what's going on with their quarterback. I think if you're gonna keep having problems with Desmond Ridder, and I don't know if maybe you end up putting Heineke in, you got to figure something out. Obviously, it didn't look a lot better with Heineke, but I still personally would take him over Ridder. I think the Falcons probably draft a quarterback this year, if I'm being honest. But Falcons take down the Saints 24-15. This one was horrible. Punt Fest, I'm just going to read this real quick. High school football is basically what this looked like, with Mac Jones just throwing it to the other team. But Bill Belichick is done. That's kind of just like a hot take to maybe get you fired up if you're maybe surprised that, Bill Belichick, one of the greatest coaches of all time. But people are talking about it, so it has to be brought up. People start to think that he's carried by Brady. Obviously, he had an effect on it, making sure there was a good defense every year. And at the end of the day, it is a Tommy DeVito Giants team, but they did only hold him to 10 points, especially with the turnovers. Not really much more to ask. The one thing that I don't like is which is from weeks ago, is getting rid of Malik Cunningham. I feel like he's, not that he was going to be the franchise guy, but to not even get to see him in the regular season. I mean, we got to see him, I think there was one game he came in for a little bit, but I would have liked to see more of him because Mac Jones has been benched in like 4 different games this season. Every time Bailey Zappi comes in, and he does okay and looks all right, but never is end up able to win the game. So it'd be nice to at least see Malik Cunningham. Sloppy football by the Giants too. There's a fumble early on. DeVito did have a nice pass though. Tommy time is what I put in there. Maybe that's hopefully can catch on because Tommy DeVito has some moxie to him where he and the hype and the Italiano, like he does. I like that. I like that about him. I don't think he's going to be the guy there, but it is fun to watch. Anywho, I put as the defense good. Yeah, you hold the Patriots to 7 points, but Mac Jones is throwing all sorts of turnovers, and Bailey Zappi doesn't seem to know what he's doing. So I don't think the Giants defense can really get a win for this one just because of the team that they're playing. So Giants end up winning 10-7. This is another one we're going to go through quick. Panthers-Titans. Panthers need a lot of help in the trenches. Chuba Hubbard did all right on the ground. He actually did have a pretty good game. But as far as any team can just get all sorts of pressure on Bryce Young because of how bad the offensive line is in pass protection. And that's so tough for a rookie quarterback. It doesn't help that your best receiver is 55-year-old Adam Thielen. And then you got Mingo, who's shown flashes, but it's rare that a rookie is going to be your star, especially with the rest of the situation in the offense where your running back seems to be Miles Sanders or Chuba Hubbard every other week, and Bryce Young doesn't really have any time. So I put, can they win another game? Because it doesn't look like right now their team would be able to win another game with how they're playing, despite how easy their record is. I think the only team that could potentially be beatable would be the Cardinals, but even then, like, Kyler Murray's back, so it's a different team. I don't know how the Panthers win another one. Simple for the Titans. Derrick Henry got after it. There was one drive where 1st and goal on, like, the 2, they just handed it to him every time. And the Panthers knew that he was getting it every time, just couldn't stop him. I also put, is it too close of a game? Because the Titans, who just a few years ago were the 1 seed in the AFC, are now barely beating the worst team in the NFL in the Panthers. Not really looking good either in this game. They really didn't look that great of a team. Like, Levis had his good first week, and then after that, it's been kind of sketchy, not great. So he's a rookie quarterback. He's going to go through some problems. I don't think Vrabel should be out, and I don't think he's going to lose his job. But people are posing that question too, so you got to keep it in mind. So yeah, Titans end up winning 17-10. This is another blowout game. Tyler Higbee for the Rams scores 2 touchdowns early on. I think it was the first 2 drives, actually, the Rams had. Higbee ends up in the end zone. They get that early lead. Cooper Kupp does go down, but then they really just hand it to Kyren Williams and pass it to Kyren Williams for the rest of the game, and the Cardinals can't figure out how to stop it. That's really all it is. They couldn't stop him on the ground. He had 16 carries for 143 yards, 6 receptions for 61 yards, and 2 touchdowns. So the Cardinals got behind early, and then Kyler Murray was not able to get him back in it, and frankly, they weren't able to do anything to even get close. And then you have to question it, do the Cardinals draft a quarterback? Because Kyler Murray, he had the one good week, the first week when he came back, but he really doesn't look like the guy. I feel like you know what you have in Kyler Murray, and sure, they don't have a great receiving core or anything, but I don't see how you can move forward with them. I know they have the contract, but it seems like they can always find a way to bend and twist a contract to make it work if they really want to get something done. So Rams take down the Cardinals 37-14. Browns-Broncos, this was just a very injury-ridden game. Myles Garrett went down, DTR went down, and Amari Cooper went down for the Browns, and they didn't really have hope after that. That's why I put Flacco time. I know he just got there, and he's probably still learning the playbook, but the Browns do have a really good shot at making a playoff run, especially with how their record is and how their defense has been. Gonna have to see Myles Garrett in there and hopefully healthy to keep that going, because he's definitely the most valuable player on that team, and in my opinion, most valuable player on the league. We can have that conversation another day, but looking at like the term most valuable player, I think Myles Garrett to a team, being the Browns, I feel like he is the most valuable player to that team. I think that he is more valuable to the Browns than even Christian McCaffrey is to the 49ers. So on and so forth. Pick any player. It's a quarterback award. They always win it. I think as far as value to a team, I would pick Myles Garrett. Could call it a hot take, but he's an animal. Then we got the Broncos. Russ is just continuously looking like old Russ, and the whole team's finally starting to put it together. I've talked about it in previous weeks where, last year Denver's playing the great defense, and Russ just can't put together an offensive drive or do anything, and it's just an absolute shit show. And then this year, beginning of the year, Russ is putting up 25, 30-plus points a game, and the defense can't stop anybody. As I go into a southern Denver accent, supposedly. But anywho, I now that Russ is firing on all cylinders and the defense is actually working through, like, getting stops and getting turnovers and making plays, getting pressure, it's all kind of coming together for the Broncos, and it's good to see. I saw a clip of Russ when they were 1-3, and he was doing some like inspirational, like, oh, you just have to believe, and then that shows the interview after 6-5, and he's going, well, all we did was believe. We just keep believing, and here we go. So I don't think that has anything to do with it personally, but thought that was funny. Good for him. Good for him that believing is the reason they're winning. I hope he keeps it up. Love to see a kind of a comeback story, especially for a Wisconsin alum. Chiefs, Raiders. This one, I thought the Chiefs were dead after the first quarter when the Raiders very quickly went up 14-0. Wasn't enough because the Chiefs completely locked them down the last three quarters. Mahomes needs a wide receiver one so badly, more than please get Larry Fitzgerald or I actually, to a group of friends, posed the idea of Calvin Johnson. Call up Calvin Johnson. He's like 38 years old. Probably he's not playing football. But that would be insane to me. And I bet you he's probably still in shape. Probably can't play anymore. But that would be nuts to see if 38 years... I'm sure he can catch. I can't imagine Megatron can't catch anymore. So, just call somebody. Get somebody on the phone that can catch the ball. Julian Edelman. Bring Edelman back. I don't care. I don't know. I'm naming these old receivers, but nobody on the team can consistently catch the ball. It's a back and forth every week of Justin Watson and Rashee Rice, who is going to actually catch the ball. And then obviously you have Kelsey. Kelsey's your kind of lockdown target, but they could double or triple team him every play and leave a receiver open and hope that they drop it at this point. Pacheco, although his stats don't show it, did look very efficient, especially through the, I think it would probably just be the second quarter and on. Maybe it was just the second half, but Pacheco did really well for them, kind of helping them after they got that lead, securing that lead, and just efficient runs, constantly getting 7-8 yard runs. So he's been a big help for the team. Josh Jacobs, though, on the other hand, ran the ball hard and consistently gained yards, and ended up averaging 5 or 5.5. I think he had 120 rushing yards and a touchdown. So good day for Josh Jacobs, just not enough. And I still think we need more Davante Adams. He's pretty much splitting targets with Jacoby Myers, and I don't like that. He needs to get more targets than Jacoby Myers. I understand Jacoby Myers has made some big plays, and he's been a better receiver than I thought, but he's not Davante Adams, and to not see him get the ball is kind of painful. But regardless of that, the Chiefs take down the Raiders 31-17. All right, Bills-Eagles. This one was a really close game. We had our typical Josh Allen mistakes. The Eagles had a very slow start. They couldn't run the ball. A lot of Jalen Hurts just kind of, doing his little scramble out to the side, making time and not finding anybody open and throwing it away. There was a lot of that early. And I think the Bills put up a good fight. We have another loss for Josh Allen in overtime. I put another OT loss for the Bills just because I don't like the narrative, and I have the stat later in the video, but Josh Allen is now 0-6 in overtime in his career, which, wins and losses are a team stat or a coach stat, not not a quarterback stat. So I don't like doing that. And a lot of people like being a Bears fan. We see that a lot. And Eberflus is 0-9 in the NFC. Well, not anymore. He just got a win, but he's 0-9 against NFC North teams since entering the league. Well, okay. Well, Justin Fields is too. He hasn't. He is on the same team. Why are we using Josh Allen for one example, coach for the other? Despite that, yeah, I think it sucks. Like especially you have the Bills Chiefs game where Josh Allen didn't even get a chance in overtime in the playoffs, and obviously changing the rule. But Bills fought a good fight, and I still think they're back. I think I think they could be a contender. They're out of the playoffs right now. They're actually. I think the Colts have some sort of an advantage over them. So they're actually not in the playoffs now. I think they will be by the end of the season, and I don't think they're done yet. The injuries on defense, obviously it was earlier in the year, but it doesn't help. But yeah, the Eagles, they have another week of the tush push and multiple successful tush pushes that, as Sirianni says, every drive starts out 1st and 9 because of how powerful that play is. And it's great for them. But Hurts fought back very strong, had a horrible first half, and honestly, the second half he just went off and had a great game. Saved by Jake Elliott too, 58-yard field goal in the shitty rainy conditions, really saving their game. Takes it to overtime. Bills end up driving and getting a field goal. Eagles go down and get a touchdown and win 37-34. Ravens Chargers. This game was a lot closer than I anticipated. It was also a lot lower scoring than I anticipated. Pretty much every week it seems like the Chargers will be able to put up 20-plus points, and the other team will just put up more. In this case, I think probably having Mark Andrews out didn't help, but the Chargers actually played decent defense on a strong Ravens team, but the Ravens, having one of the better defenses in the league, also shut them down. And for once, the Chargers don't do a lot on offense. The fumbling definitely helped. Herbert, Eckler, and Keenan Allen all lost fumbles in this game, which is not helping your case winning the game. And then Herbert threw an interception too, so the 4 turnovers is really what hurt him the most. And it was actually a very close game until the end. Zay Flowers gets that huge touchdown, and that kind of puts the game away. But before that, I mean, it was 13-10 between the Ravens and the Chargers. Not something I think we expected. I just expected a higher scoring game, and didn't end up happening. Ravens end up winning 20-10. And then final game of the week, one of the most awful games to watch. Basically, if you didn't watch this game, what I could do is I could just say, okay, well, in the first 3 quarters, well, actually the whole game, but to sum up the first 3 quarters, Josh Dobbs just threw a bunch of interceptions, and the Bears threw a bunch of screen passes, and nobody got into the end zone. And then in the 4th quarter, the Vikings score a touchdown to go up 10-9, which is hilarious. On a Monday Night Football game, everybody's watching. They go up 10-9, and Justin Fields gets the ball back, gets his opportunity to win the game, and fumbles it away as he always does. But Bears defense holds out, gets another stop, and Fields gets the ball back. Brian Flores on the last drive does not. He's blitzing all game. Every play, 5+ people coming at Fields, usually 6 or 7. Not 7, but at least 5 or 6. Pretty much the whole game. He's blitzing every time. And the last drive, I don't think he ever sent more than 4. I think it was 3 or 4 every time. Fields had time. They left DJ Moore wide open in the middle of the field, and he runs down the field down to like the 13-yard line. Bears need a couple times and get the game-winning field goal. But it was like a high school football game with all the screen passes. A lot of people in the Bears community were knocking Luke Getsy, and I agree with the amount of screen passes, but you also have to look at what happened in the first game. He tried more drop-back stuff, and Fields got murdered in the first Bears-Vikings game, ends up getting injured just because there wasn't any time. Now, I think he could have done a better job of scheming up blocks with having Roschon Johnson or Akari Blasingame in the backfield. I think he'd be a lot better off with one of your stronger pass blockers of your running backs to help. I think they could have blocked a tight end or maybe used chipping more, at least for the pass game and getting some throws past the line of scrimmage. But the other point of that is Justin Fields really only threw 2 good passes across the line of scrimmage in this game, of probably like 8 or 9 throws that he had. So you have to keep that in mind too, is if he's not going to be able to execute, what does Getsy do? Does he really just kind of has to keep calling the screens? End of the game, or end of the day, we win the game, we being the Bears. And it was not a good win by any means. But it's a tough situation. Dobbs, I put he might be colorblind because he just kept throwing it to the other team. Now, granted, there was 2 deflected. Oh, 3. There was 3 passes that got deflected to interceptions. 2 of them were still thrown at Bears players, though. The other one was thrown at Jordan Addison, and it was a bullet, and he wasn't ready for it, put his hands up, bounced right off of his hands and his head, up in the air to, I think, Jaquan Brisker. So, also, the final thing was, well, I guess they didn't run the ball enough. That was part of their scheming problem. Alexander Mattison, despite not having a flashy game, he was very efficient, and he was getting good chunk plays when he would run the ball. They didn't give him the ball enough, especially in a low-scoring game. It wasn't a need-to-pass situation. Part of the scheming issue is they tried to turn Josh Dobbs into Kirk Cousins, where he just stands in the pocket, reads the field, and throws it. And really, Josh Dobbs needs an offense more similar to Justin Fields, where he's better outside of the pocket and better on the move and play action, that sort of deal. And KOC did not do that. He didn't play to his strengths like I thought he did in these 2 weeks prior. So I think Kevin O'Connell kind of set up Dobbs for failure in this game. And obviously Dobbs throwing all the interceptions, that doesn't help. But a lot of those were also unlucky. So I feel like the Vikings definitely could have won this game. They end up losing. You can blame whoever you want, but that's the game. Week 12 leaders. Let's go over everybody. So we got, well, I'm not going to go over everything here. Trevor Lawrence, 364 passing yards. Dak with 142 passer rating is huge. Kyren Williams, we mentioned it earlier, with 143 rushing yards on 16 carries. Phenomenal day. Muth having the 9 receptions for 120. Bears getting in there for most takeaways, tied with the Ravens. Both teams kind of barely winning the games. Bit of a surprise there. And then the Eagles getting outgained in a win over the Bills. Josh Allen, we said it earlier, is now 0-6 in his career. And then the Steelers fired Matt Canada. And then in his first game since firing him, they put up 400 offensive yards, something that they never did in the 45 games under Matt Canada. So, crazy stat there. And kind of a smack in the face to Matt Canada for the weeks and weeks and weeks that they were chanting Fire Canada for the offense to just go off and have a day. Not quite getting in the end zone, but at least producing offense and getting yards and that sort of thing. They did well. And then Deron Bland, we talked about, has the new record for pick sixes in a season at 5. And we have to go over the I'm Jerry Player of the Week. We do it every week. I pick one player who had the best week. Sometimes easy to pick. This case on the screen, Kyren Williams gets the game of the week. 16 carries, 143 yards. We already talked about it. He played a huge role in them winning the game, but at the end of the day, the Rams had the same amount of points that the Cardinals scored for the whole game in like the first 8 minutes of the game with those 2 Higbee touchdowns. So I didn't really need Kyren Williams to go off like that, and that was why I was kind of questioning him going for player of the game, just because he didn't have some great play. I think Jalen Hurts arguably could have gotten it, especially for the comeback and all the plays that he made, but with his first half, he also was the reason that they were in that deficit, so I didn't end up picking him. And when you have 200 combined rushing and receiving yards as a running back, 2 touchdowns, it was on only 22 carries, mind you. That's averaging about 10 yards per touch, which is huge for him. So had to go with Kyren Williams. That is it, though. That is all the teams. So thank you for watching the video. Let me know if I missed anything in any of the games, and then if you have any suggestions. I was thinking about not going over every game because I feel like some of those where it's just, The Dolphins Jets. Yeah, it was a blowout. Might not have to talk about those. So let me know if you want me to skip over those and just go over the big close games and maybe everything that we learned. Or I could call it what we learned from week 12 or something like that. Let me know down below. Like, comment, subscribe. Thank you for watching and have a great day.